Welcome back to another episode where I talk about my favorite topic in the world, Alaska, and hopefully answering a couple of your questions along the way. One of the more recent topics that we've gotten questions on is, should I live in Fairbanks, Alaska or Anchorage, Alaska? Now there's plenty of other options. There's Valdez, Wasilla, Palmer, the Kenai Peninsula, Homer, and more. But what I'll tell you is most people, when they start looking for homes or thinking about moving to Alaska, think of one of the two major metropolitan areas. So this video dives into which one's better, in my opinion. Got a couple facts, details, statistics for you, and we'll unpack the entire thing just for you. Stay tuned, here we go. The first point is cost of living. It's a huge concern with everybody moving to Alaska because you hear these awful rumors that it is so expensive to live here, and they're not wrong. But they are wrong if you compare us to other states like California, Washington, and Oregon. Yes, Mississippi and Arkansas are a cheaper place to live than Fairbanks, Alaska. It's true. But let's break down some numbers here so you get a good feeling of what I'm talking about. So let's talk about houses. That's kind of my industry and I know most about that. So the average home price in Fairbanks is going to be between $325,000 and $350,000. And that's going to get you a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage house on about an acre with some privacy in the rural suburban areas of Fairbanks. In Anchorage, it's a little bit higher. So their average home price goes from about $380 up to about $410, depending on which areas you're living in and what kind of amenities you're looking for. So the housing price alone is a little bit higher. They also have a lot more utility costs and other things like that. I would say that heating costs in Fairbanks is probably a little bit more, but then again, down there, you're mostly hooked up on natural gas. And yeah, so every house comes with its own different budget. Overall though, just looking at the housing prices, Fairbanks is cheaper than Anchorage by a significant margin for most. Got to keep in mind you will have more options down there since there are more people. That means there's more houses and there's more builders down there. So you do have the ability to get a newer home, a larger home in Anchorage than you can probably get here in Fairbanks. However, you're gonna be paying more for it. So that's the first point. Number two is all about the sense of community in both of these areas. So Fairbanks versus Anchorage. Let's talk about population first. Well, Fairbanks is a pretty large city. There's 30,000 people within the city center, and then you got about 95,000, including that 30, in the entire greater Fairbanks area. So pretty significant, not huge, not a major metropolitan in other states' standards, but for here, it's our second largest city if you don't count the suburban sprawl down in Anchorage. Now, on the flip side, Anchorage has about 290,000 people, and once you add Wasilla and Palmer in there, that number will probably get close to double. Majority of the Alaskan population lives down between the Kenai Peninsula and the valley, the Matsu Valley, which is the Wasilla Palmer area. So, sense of community. Up here, you have chicken stock, you have a bunch of great events like Pioneer Park, Golden Days, and so much more. That really brings the community together. I have not come across too many stay out of my state kind of people here in Alaska. Everyone's pretty welcoming. It's tough living here. It's dark a lot, it's cold a lot, and it does kind of bind us together. Everyone's kind of golden hearted and welcomes you into the community. Down in Anchorage, a little bit different. More people comes with more problems. Again, that's for somebody else's opinion, but it's harder to find a sense of community when you have between 300 and 400,000 people running around, faster paced lifestyle, more self-interest, if you will. So you also got to keep in mind that even though the capital is in Juneau, they often meet in Wasilla, which is part of the greater Anchorage area. So you're closer to the political hub, if you will, of Alaska, and dealing a lot more with the fallout and the drama that is associated with politics. Overall, who wins here? That's your decision to make with the data that I just provided. Number three is going to be talking about crime and safety. So I can pretty confidently talk about Fairbanks, and I go to Anchorage a lot. I do want to put a disclaimer up right here. I talked to the police department, I read some articles. This is information based, so if you want to make a factual decision, go ahead and either call the Anchorage Police Department or the Fairbanks Police Department or even the Alaska State Troopers and do your own research. But overall, the Fairbanks versus Anchorage debate, Fairbanks does have a lower crime rate, especially when you look at violent crimes. Doesn't mean people aren't murdered here and so on. It just means that it's significantly less than Anchorage. Anchorage, actually, there was a report released recently that said it was 80% higher in violent crimes than the national average. Now that's pretty scary, but we gotta take everything with a grain of salt. A grain of salt is it's per capita, and there are a lot less people in Alaska than anywhere else. So that means a few bad apples will make that number spike dramatically quicker than in places like New York City, where people die every single day. I will tell you this, in Alaska, people die every day from all kinds of things. Exposure, if you're out in the weather, old age, cancer, and so on. We're specifically talking about murder and violent crimes. And while yes, the statistics are out there, it does happen here. Here in Fairbanks, I have never experienced true violence or hatred towards anybody. Now, that is my experience. Other people's experiences may be different. I know for a fact that there was just a murder-suicide about 3 weeks ago here in Fairbanks. But again, the numbers are telling me that Fairbanks wins this debate, and it is generally a safer, quieter, slower paced lifestyle with less violent offenders. Something else to consider is sex offenders in the area. I have no data or research on that, but there are plenty of websites like Watchdog and so on that you can go check out and check in on what the sex offender registry says versus Anchorage and Fairbanks. Number 4 is one of my favorite topics, outdoor recreation. And who wins here, Anchorage or Fairbanks? Let's start with Anchorage. While they got the Chugiak Mountains and are in proximity to some pretty amazing places, I'm gonna try to keep it pretty centralized to the Anchorage area. Anchorage itself is a massive city, so therefore there is outdoor activities like parks and so on, but you're gonna have less options as far as hiking and camping than you do in Fairbanks. That being said, some of my favorite hikes are down in Anchorage. Flat Top Mountain is one of them. There are a bunch of great things you can do within an hour's drive of Anchorage. So definitely do not disqualify them. Just the Kenai Peninsula alone and some of the salmon fishing opportunities that you have down there. You're closer to the coast, so your fishing experience in general is a lot larger. Here in Fairbanks, you can still fish. It's just gonna be out of a lake or a river, probably stocked by Fish and Game. So keep that in mind. The variety of fish you're gonna see are different. Every year I have to drive about 7 hours to the southeast to get down to do my salmon fishing because they don't come all the way up here. And when they do, they're pretty spawned out and not really the most delicious fish to eat anymore. So there's lots of benefits to that, but Fairbanks does have the White Mountains, Gates of the Arctic National Forest, Denali National Park, and many, many hiking sites around the area. I mean, Chena Hot Springs Road and the Steese Highway and the Elliott Highway alone are 3 highways that have countless hikes and day trips associated with them. So definitely something to look out for. Like I said, I've made this recommendation a few times in other videos, but check out Outside in the Interior if you're into outdoor recreation. It's a great book with some very popular hiking trails, river tours, and so on. In the end, who wins this one? Up to you again. Are you more of a land dweller or do you like the ocean a little bit more? Keep in mind the weather in Fairbanks is going to give you more opportunity to do winter activities. Right now, Anchorage actually has very little snow, a lot more wind and rain. So again, winter will be easier as far as temperatures go, but maybe more difficult with ice and other issues. So make an informed decision, do your own research, and let me know what you think. Number 5 is a great topic of discussion as well, traffic and commutes. And just like on the last one, we talked about number of people in Anchorage. Keep in mind, more people on the trail might be a less enjoyable experience. There are also more people on the road. So here in Fairbanks, we define traffic as sitting through any traffic light for more than 1 rotation. So if you sit behind a red light for 2 rotations, you're officially in traffic. There's probably an accident on the road or something causing a problem. Fort Wainwright, Eielson Air Force Base, everybody letting out work at the same time or something like that. Overall, we do not have traffic here. I don't think it's taken me ever more than 15 minutes to drive across town. Keep in mind, we are smaller than Anchorage. Anchorage can take you a good 45 minutes just to get from one point to the other. Plus you have traffic because again, the population difference is about 100,000 to about 300,000. So Anchorage is at least 3 times larger than this area here. Other things might be rush hour traffic, accidents because of the volume of people. Keep in mind the weather conditions, while different, are similar. So you're still dealing with snow, ice, road conditions, that kind of stuff. Number 6, Anchorage versus Fairbanks. Who's gonna be the winner? Well, you decide. This one's all about weather and climate, and really it's a personal preference. So if you like the perfect summer with very harsh winters that do give you the opportunity to do some really cool things, then I think Fairbanks is better for you. So let me dive into my pitch first. I think that the summers here are the best that I've been anywhere, to include Hawaii, Mexico, anywhere. It's too hot there. It's absolutely perfect here. So what that means is usually somewhere between 70 and 80 degrees in the summer, crystal clear skies, very little bit of rain, and not too many storms or weather issues. It's a very awesome summer, and you can only know what I'm talking about if you lived here. Even when you're on vacation, it just doesn't do it justice. In the winters, we do sometimes see -30, -40 degree temperatures. This year, we've had a heat wave of about 45 degrees above zero for about the last 2 weeks. It's absolutely crazy. We've never seen that before. So, yes, Fairbanks, you got a very mild summer, allowing you to do lots of outdoor activities. You have a harsher winter, and we really don't have a spring or a fall. Here, in Alaska, or at least in Fairbanks, we call spring breakup because that's when all the snow melts and it quickly turns into summer. I would say our spring is only about 3 weeks long. Fall, on the other hand, is a good month. You're looking at the end of September into October. Really, we call it hunting season because every guy that I know packs up their stuff, leaves town, and heads out into the woods for a good 10, 15 days to go chase moose, caribou, and so on. So really, Fairbanks is a 2-season climate. Anchorage, on the other hand, has its own set of issues and different weather patterns. So this year, they've had very little snow. In fact, I think most yards down there are covered in grass. They've had some windstorms, different things like that. So this is geographically based. One, they're a coastal city. We're an interior flatlands hub, if you will. We have hills and mountains. They have large mountains down there. You see them as soon as you land at the airport, and it's an amazing view. But with mountains and oceans comes wind. And once it gets stuck in that bowl and swirls around, it can create some windstorms. So if you don't like wind, come to Fairbanks. I claim that we never have wind. We do every now and then again, but we are a very non-windy city, and Anchorage does have a little bit most of that coastal wind and that mountain blowback. So if that's something you don't like, rain and wind, but warmer summers and warmer winters, then Anchorage wins that one. If you want the perfect summer and a harsher butt-kicking winter that binds you together with your local residents here, then Fairbanks is the winner. You choose, you tell me. Let's talk about cultural and educational opportunities between Fairbanks and Anchorage. So first off, the University of Alaska in Fairbanks is the flagship university. Anchorage, while being a bigger city, actually has the sister school, UAA, which is University of Alaska in Anchorage. While I'm not the expert at education, I'm not going to do a deep dive into this. I went to college on the East Coast, so I know very little about their actual credentials. What I do know is that most of the Arctic research, grant money, and larger investments are here in Fairbanks. The institution's built a little bit larger, and it gets a little bit more publicity than UAA. Then again, there's a huge rivalry between the two schools as far as hockey goes, so you pick your team and you let me know in the comments below who you want to win and who you usually root for. However, educationally, you got different schools. We're talking now grade schools and, 1st through 12 and so on. I've been seeing a lot of TikTok videos that is really dogging on some Anchorage schools. Now, I would say everything in Alaska is a little bit Alaskan, so it's a little bit different than where you're probably living at. But what I will tell you is every time you look at lists of the schools, while Fairbanks is kind of in the middle of the pack and Anchorage is normally towards the bottom, looking at East Anchorage, West Anchorage, Diamond High School, and so on. Do your own research, hoponhomes.com or any of the school websites that you like, and they do have their professional opinions with statistics on what schools are better. But culturally speaking, up here we have a large Native community that is very proud and puts on a lot of events, such as the Native Olympics and so on. So if you are interested in that, we have the Museum of the North, we have the Indigenous Museum around here, and lots of other things that really gets you in with the local population here. Anchorage also has a plethora of communities and museums and so on. Where they really shine is the restaurant options and the venues like concerts and so on that come through there more often. We have concerts here in Fairbanks as well, but I would say 2 to 4 a year. A couple comedians come up here. Bigger name people like Guy Fieri visit all the time, but it is still a lot smaller and less often than in Anchorage since it is a capital population type city where there's just a lot more people to attend such events. So if you like concerts, great food, Anchorage, I'm sorry to admit, even though we have the better college, you win this one. Shout out to Whiskey and Ramen, absolutely amazing, and Tequila 61 is great too. So go to downtown Anchorage, try some of their food, absolutely love it, and I think it's some of the best. Number 8 boils down to light and air quality, and this one is going to be up for you guys to discuss in the comments below. I think it's a lose-lose, but let's dig into the data here. Fairbanks is overall, I think, better summers, warmer temperatures than down south. It also has less rainy days than Anchorage and has a great summer weather. In the winter, you're gonna have a lot less daylight here than there because we are several hundred miles north and we're closer to the Arctic Circle. That being said, Anchorage really is a coastal city, so you're gonna have a lot more rainy days. You're gonna have more of those gray skies and kind of that gloomy feel. But when it's nice in Anchorage, it beats Fairbanks every single time. It's just less often. So do you like a higher quality of weather, or a higher frequency of good weather. It's really up to you. Again, a little biased here since I live and work here in Fairbanks, Alaska, and this is where I chose to make my home. But if you can brave the winters here, I don't think you can compete with our summers, and I dare you to come up here and try it out. You'll fall in love with the summer too, and maybe it's just enough to convince you to toughen up and deal with those winter weather. So keep in mind, that was my opinion on which place is better, Fairbanks or Anchorage. Obviously, like I mentioned a few times in this video, I'm biased, but the information is my point of view and what I see and hear often. I got friends in Anchorage, I got business partners in Anchorage, and I travel down there often. I would say 6, 7, 8 times a year pretty easily for different events, conferences, or just some relaxation. I'm heading down there in March to go to the Alaskan Ski Resort, also a spa, enjoy some good food with some friends. Something to definitely look at because Girdwood is only an hour south of Anchorage and it is a good 7 hours from here. If you're into skiing, we have options up here as well. They're just a lot less and not as nice as Girdwood. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Talk to you guys soon. See you next week on the next episode, and hopefully we had some good topics to talk about. Please hop down in the comments. If you want to subscribe, go ahead, but I hate being that guy to beg and plead. Also in the comments, let's have a little discussion about what you love about Anchorage, what you love about Fairbanks, or if you want to be negative, you can tell me what you hate about the 2 locations as well. Have a great day.